where does the rent go each month? That's actually something a lot of people ask me. What do you do with the money? Most of the rent money that a tenant is paying to a property owner isn't just going directly to the property owner's pocket and staying there. In fact, it could be further from the case. So in this video, we're going to talk about some of the expenses a property owner is going to have in their rental property, and you can decide if it's worth getting into that kind of business or not. Stick around, make sure you hit subscribe. Let's jump into this. Collecting rent, super important stuff, and I'd give you a couple ideas of how to properly do that. I'd really suggest moving away from kind of the old school way of just going out, knocking on the door on the first of the month and saying, hey, rent's due. Really, best suggestion would be to set up an automated payment plan or some type of electronic payment method. Now that's going to give your rental tenants, basically your customers can go online, pay electronically, or you can set up an automated method where it comes directly out of a bank account that they set up for you. So this way it's something that's just done and more done as a routine, so you can hopefully have a higher rate of collection, meaning more likely you'll get paid for your services than not, and more consistently paid on a certain date.
I pay my bills are paid.
So that's really, really important from owner's point of view. If you've got a lot of bills to pay, you need the money, the ability, the capital to actually pay those bills. And we're going to get into some of the other bills that need to get paid. But to do that, to pay those bills, you need to have incoming rents. One of the best things to do to make that happen is set expectations early with your customers. Before they even move in, explain to them the process, the importance of the process, and that you want to make sure you're building a great relationship with them so that you can deliver all of your responsibilities, assuming, of course, that they deliver on their primary responsibility, which is to pay for your services. So you collected their rent. Congratulations. All right, after you've collected the rent, where does the biggest chunk of that go? Well, you guessed it, a mortgage. Chances are you didn't inherit this property. Chances are you didn't have a huge bag of money and hit the lottery and buy this property outright. So if you own a rental property, if you're an investor and you bought an investment property, you probably have a loan on that thing and need to make that monthly mortgage payment. You are needing to pay them on time every month, and that's going to be a huge chunk of that amount. Everybody's mortgage is going to be a little bit different. I think that's a pretty obvious expense. That's not what you're here for. You're here because you want to remember and be made aware of so many of the other expenses that are going to stack up and eat away at that monthly rental income. Where does some of that money go? Well, taxes. Shocker. Who knew, right? And the messed up thing is taxes can really become variable. And in fact, in a lot of towns, a lot of cities across the United States in the last few years have seen property taxes absolutely skyrocket. So you might have a mortgage that's got a fixed payment. Maybe you got a 30-year fixed mortgage. You don't have to worry about your mortgage payment jumping, but you do have to worry about your taxes jumping every month. You never know when that might happen. So you're gonna have to set aside a budget for that out of your rental payments. Now, aside from mortgages, aside from taxes, you've got insurance, right? These are the easy categories that I think most people know. But again, forget that insurance can also vary. Usually you're setting up a policy that renews every year, something like that. What people were really surprised in the last couple of years to see is insurance payments, absolutely annihilated their bottom line. So the insurance premiums can jump as well as taxes. Okay, so those are a few of the big hitters that are gonna take a huge chunk of that $1,000 rent, that $2,000 rent, whatever it is, right? Usually the bigger the rent amount, usually the bigger the property and the bigger the expenses associated to it. What does that leave you with for expenses? A few of these things might surprise you, and it's gonna be a few of these things that people don't really count on or think about. Maybe it's because you've always done them yourself and you didn't realize, boy, I'm gonna have to hire somebody or pay somebody to do this for me. Or I don't have the time to get to the property and do it as timely as I would normally do it when I'm coming home from work or doing it around my own house. But some of these kind of things are gonna be the difference between you walking away with some monthly profit or not having a dime and actually losing money each month by renting out this property. Providing this service, taking this risk, having this liability, and having to actually pay money each month for the privilege of doing all that. What works better the more you use it? Almost nothing. Cars don't magically improve and get better the more you drive them. Well, guess what? Houses, homes, they don't magically improve and heal and get better the more people live in them. So the next category is going to be maintenance. And there's kind of a couple different types of maintenance that we're going to be talking about here. One is your normal wear and tear, your daily use of an apartment or a house. things that will just simply go wrong. A toilet's going to clog, a window is going to crack, just some other stuff that might get used around a doorknob. I mean, things like this that need to get replaced more commonly, more frequently, just your general maintenance around the home, exterior, the common areas, as well as interiors. Replacing a light fixture, replacing a smoke detector, things like that. Not necessarily break the bank expenses, but you can't rule them out. You got to factor and plan for this kind of stuff. So you want to set aside a budget. Now listen, we're not going to go through the details and the boring aspects of saying what % of this and how much dollar value you should associate to that. Those videos, you can find a lot of those on our channel. We want to talk about the general concepts. So you have general maintenance, random upkeep like that to the property. The other piece of it is going to be more long-term maintenance like CapEx. So these are going to be the stuff that you need to do, you're going to need to do eventually, but you don't want to wait until you have to do it to all of a sudden find the money. And what am I talking about here? We're talking about things like a freaking roof. People literally don't budget for a roof and then one day realize, I got to put a roof on. Where am I going to come up with $20,000? Well, you were supposed to be coming up with it little by little, month by month, out of the rental income each month, little by little, saving and putting that money aside so you have it ready for that roof in 10, 20, 30 years. Same thing is going to go for things like a heating system, a hot water tank. Man, a lot of different elements of the home are going to need to be replaced over time, repainting of it. I don't know. A lot of these kind of things you have to plan for on a monthly basis. So when they come time to have happen, you're not sitting there telling your tenant, oh, I don't have the money to fix that right now. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to figure something out. You're going to have to move because I can't replace the heating system this January. And that's when the tenant turns around and says, where has the rent money been going? So those are all going to be big time expenses that you need to budget for just a little bit each time they make a payment to you. But wait, there's more. Did you forget about trash? Right? Obviously people are going to generate trash. Where is it going to go and what's it going to cost you? Is your property one that needs to have a dumpster and you have to pay a dumpster service every month? Or are you having trash barrels where they take the trash barrels out to the curb for city pickup? Who pays for the trash collection? Is it part of your property taxes, or like many places, is it a separate fee that you, the owner, needs to cover? Now, what about landscaping? Who's mowing that lawn? Now, you might be used to just having your own lawn mowed by yourself at home. Don't really think about that as a cost, but you need to keep this property up. You don't want to get complaints, and you definitely don't want to get complaints from the city, leading to maybe some citations. So that means either you're doing the landscaping yourself or you're paying somebody to do it. Either way, it's going to be a little bit of an expense there with some serious time involved. Now, what if you're in an area that snows? Now, having homes in Massachusetts, that's exactly what we have to deal with. You're going to be out there making sure those sidewalks and steps are constantly shoveled, de-iced, and salted. What happens if the property has a driveway? Are you handling the plowing on that? You're probably not doing all this stuff yourself. Maybe you don't have the ability to spend all that time with very little notice going to the property yourself, so you're hiring a snow removal company to do the work for you. Make sure you're factoring this in annually. Budget for it in June, knowing that you're gonna have these expenses in July, January, whatever month it snows. Anyway, the next thing you want to think about too is, this sounds like a lot of hands-on work, so maybe you want to hire a property management company. Property managers are going to cost anywhere from 5 to maybe 10%.
He takes that 5%
of your collected rents. They're going to be the ones that take the calls about the clogged toilet. They're going to be the ones dealing with rent collections and stuff like that. So they're going to be the ones basically operating and running your property, hiring contractors, doing all that type of work. And a lot of people choose to use a property management company because it'll help them lease up units faster. So if you want to use a management company instead of doing the work yourself, you're paying for that service, and you need to budget for that every month too. So after you've finally gotten through all those expenses, your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, your general maintenance, your long-term maintenance and CapEx, your trash fees, your landscaping, your property manager, what is left? what is left to put in your pocket at the end of the month? Well, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot, to be honest. And that's okay, because you're maybe looking at this as a long-term play. But the amount left over is what's called cash flow, and that's what you can actually go out and maybe treat yourself to a hot coffee and a crisp high five from somebody. Not gonna take you as far as you might think it would at the beginning of the month when you collected $2,000. But that's okay, because this is a business and where you want to be able to scale and not just have one customer every month. You want to eventually scale to having dozens of customers. And the idea is you want to stay in business long enough to have your property values improve and go up in value, hopefully, and also see that your mortgage and your principal is getting paid down as part of this rent as well. So you'll see some value being built up there through equity in that way. But that's what you're going to be really in this for, is a monthly cash flow that's going to be an awfully small percentage of the monthly rent amount. So remember, if you're renting right now and you're paying your landlord, that's where most of the money is going in your rental checks each month. If you're thinking about buying a property and not renting anymore, becoming maybe an owner-occupant, doing a house hack, something along those lines, these are the numbers you want to, and categories of things you want to be working with to come up with your monthly budgets and set a reasonable expectation of just how successful this business is really going to be for you. So our subscribers have been watching our journey as we continue to grow and work through the real estate investing business that we've developed for ourselves. We wanted to share some of this feedback with you so you have an easier go of it if you've been interested in getting into this line of work. I'll tell you, one of the biggest and most valuable skill sets you can have is having the ability to know this stuff ahead of time, plan accordingly, and budget wisely so that you don't overspend, over-renovate, or overextend yourself in another property when one really isn't performing the way you were planning for it to. Make sure you're planning appropriately so that you can use the income and the expenses so you can leverage and grow at a pace that you can actually sustain. One of the worst things you could do if you're in the business of providing homes to people and renting out property is to let them down on your responsibilities. So one of the biggest things I would leave you with is, if you want to get into this business, definitely make sure you're watching our videos, learning more about it before you leap into it. Because I want to see you be successful, but I also want to see you provide a quality service or product to your customers as well. Thanks so much for sticking around. I really want to make sure you follow us here so you can watch us on our next video.